So I'm Kevin Shanley. I'm the manager of distance education at Utah State University. I've been in online education field for about 15 years, both at another university and a junior college before coming here to Utah State. I've worked primarily in online course development and online course delivery for that entire time, 15 years. I've also worked delivering courses throughout the state of Utah broadcasts, so not just online, but in other formats as well. So I've got a master's degree in instructional technology from Utah State University, bachelor's in instructional technology from California State Chico, and an associate's degree in multimedia design. The purpose of our CDE at Utah State goes back to the foundation of Utah State University. When we were founded as a land-grant institution, we were given the charter to educate the state of Utah, which meant everybody outside of Logan and throughout Utah. So distance education at Utah State's been around for a long time. We used to have faculty that would go by train out to other locations to teach students in rural locations. As technologies evolved, we had faculty that would take planes to different locations, and then we started doing broadcast through satellite. And then as satellite kind of went away, we started doing online IP video to rural locations, and then as online came on, we've got a lot more online courses. So our whole purpose at distance education at Utah State is to educate the state of Utah. The trends here in Utah State are slightly different than trends in other regions. Our non-traditional, we call them non-traditional students, they're the students that aren't here on campus in the dorms, tend to be 23 years old to 45 years old, most of them, mostly married. One of the big differences is we have a higher percentage of females taking online classes than males. Most other institutions have about a 50-50 split. We're more of a 70-30 split with 70% females. And a lot of that's due to the culture in the region and the area. And that's one of the demographics of our students. The way the demographics affect course design, where we have older students and a higher population of female students, we do work with our faculty members to let them know about these changes, the different demographics, because the students in this older group, they have more life experience. And we encourage in that interaction piece for faculty to draw that experience out of their students. So in their content, they can rely on students to share stories of their work environment, share stories of their home environment. In like family life courses, these older students, they have families. They already know, they have more experience parenting than, say, somebody that's living in a dorm. And so it becomes key in creating learning objectives for a course to consider that you have an older student population that has more life experience, and how to involve that life experience in your content, and how to relate the content to the life experience these students are having. So not just teaching, say, a geology course about rocks, but these older students, they've probably been out hiking more or camping more, and how can they relate those experiences that they've had with rocks back to the geology course? And there's all kinds of ways to do that. That's a big factor in course design. The other thing is to understand that these older students, they also have more demands on their time. They do have spouses, they do have children, they do have jobs, and you don't want to make the course easier, but you want to recognize that you don't want to give a student 500 pages of reading a night, because they're not going to do it. They're going to put off the reading to deal with parenting or to deal with work. And so you might have to change the assignments and the demand for the course to be more student-friendly. Rather than having them dedicate a day of homework, they may be spreading their homework out over a week period, and spending a little bit of time on it each day. And that affects course design too, and how your assignments work and your assessments work. A big one is quizzes. It's a best practice to have a quiz that might be an hour-long quiz, but allow students a week to take that quiz. Anytime during this week, you can take your quiz. Once you start, you have an hour to complete. That allows the older students and the students with these life demands more flexibility to complete the assignments. Designing a course when you don't know your demographic is difficult. if possible, you could survey your students beforehand or have a pre-course survey, like maybe the first module in the course is an assessment of the students to find out where the students stand. But then you have to be prepared to change your course on the fly. So if you do a survey and you find out that most of your students are 40 years old or older, you might have to make some quick adjustments to your course. Similarly, if you find out they're all really young, you might need to adjust some of your references. So it's hard to do on the fly without knowing your demographic. And the key, as within all instructional design, is to have clear learning objectives and measurable learning objectives so that you can adjust the learning objectives as you learn your demographics. And really, if you have those learning objectives in place, then it's easier to adapt your course to your students. What you don't want to do is start a course not knowing what you're trying to teach or what your objectives are. And so I would say that's probably the number one thing, regardless of if it's a MOOC, if it's a traditional online course, or if it's a fast-paced corporate training. Learning objectives is the key. So you can figure out, here's what we're going to teach you, here's how we're going to give you the content, here's how we're going to assess you, and measure your learning. So honestly, the biggest adjustment for students that are in both worlds between an online class and a face-to-face class is the tuition. Right now, our online courses charge a per credit rate. And so a student would pay tuition for their face-to-face class and then have a completely separate fee for their online class. That is the one thing we get the most complaints about, is that the course is charged differently. As far as learning, the big adjustment is online students need to be able to plan to attend class on a regular basis. Now, online allows you to have a flexible experience, but students should still be connecting with that class several times a week, even if they're logging in at midnight. And so we advise students to check in frequently, to update their discussion board, to review what might have changed, or to see if the instructors posted an announcement, and to maintain that connection with the course. Because a lot of online students think, it's online, I'll do it when I want to do it, I'll catch up at the end, and that's not the case. Most of our online courses follow the same semester schedule as a face-to-face course and require students to do work every week. And so that's kind of been a perception change that students have had to undergo, is to say, well, I'm in this online course, but I'm still going to have to attend. I'm still going to have to participate. I'm still going to have to be there regularly. That seems to be one of the biggest challenges for students. And then the other is just time management. Because it is online, you can log in at midnight. It's easy to let things get in your way and say, oh, I didn't get to it tonight, I'll get to it tomorrow. And pretty soon a week has gone by and you haven't checked into your course. And then 2 weeks have gone by and now you're behind. And so we spend a lot of time trying to let our students know to manage their time, to check in regularly, to dedicate specific time to their course, even though it is online, to treat it like a face-to-face course. Say, I'm going to take my online course Tuesday at 3 o'clock, and that's my online course time. Another factor that helps students is to have a dedicated learning space, because students in an online class can be at home, sitting on a couch. They can be distracted by their pets or by children or their spouses. Research has shown that students will learn better if they have a dedicated learning space, where it's like my cocoon, my home office. This is when I'm on the computer. When I'm in this spot, this is when I'm learning. And students can form connections between their location and the content they're learning. So if they focus on their course in the same location every time, they'll have stronger connections to their content than if they're at Starbucks for the discussion board and at McDonald's for the assignment, and if they bounce around trying to participate in their course. So the key thing with online design is interaction. A lot of the research around student learning involves their interaction with their peers, interaction with their instructor. And there are trends out in the industry like MOOCs, massively open online courses, where they want to present content assuming that students are going to learn on their own. and there's very little interaction with the instructor. One thing at Utah State is we've tried to establish all of our online courses to have interaction components to them, so that the instructors are engaging with their students, and students do have a face to put with what they're learning. And the research has shown that it results in a higher retention rate for students and a higher success rate for students as long as there's an interaction going on. And that can be in discussion boards, that could be just in personal work groups, email exchanges. I mean, there's all kinds of different ways to foster interaction. So from a course design standpoint, interaction is key in development. There are a few other factors that play into course development that really helps with students. A good, clean course design where students can see the order in which they progress through content. A lot of students, if they come into a course and they don't know where to start, then they're instantly overwhelmed and want to quit or back off. So a clean course design is important, and an instructor presence is important. We ask all of our instructors to post a profile of who they are and why the student should be learning from them. We don't want students to just think they're learning from a computer, because our faculty have a lot of knowledge to share and we want to capitalize on that. So interaction, course design, faculty engagement are all good components of course design that help students succeed. The only other comment I'd make is there's a lot of stuff in the media right now about MOOCs and about changing higher education, and there's a lot of belief that within the next 15 to 20 years, all courses are going to boil down to maybe a top 10 schools will be offering online courses, and the rest of us will be piggybacking off that content. And my opinion is that's not going to happen. Most students don't want to learn in a classroom full of 20,000 other students. Students want to learn from people. They want to have that interpersonal experience. And at Utah State, we try to keep our course capacities kind of low. And we have 75 capacity courses, but even then you can have some interaction. We're not out for the 3,000, 4,000 student courses because you lose that interaction and you lose quality. So even though there's a lot of media buzz about MOOCs and about educating the masses for free, I don't think that's going to happen. Another comment about that is, so MOOCs are free right now, but there's really no model of, well, how do we pay for instruction? How do we pay for content? Instructors want to get paid. Some of them will do a MOOC on the side, but they've got a teaching job too to pay their bills. And nobody's figured out a way yet to make money off of these MOOCs. The ideas that have been proposed are things like, oh, we're going to sell our student lists. Well, if we were to turn around and try to sell all of our student lists to some company, we wouldn't have enrollments after so long because students don't want to give that information up. So I think some of the models that are being proposed out there are intriguing, and they're pushing the ideas about course design, but I don't think it's going to replace the traditional university course offerings.